Oh,
Yes.
okay.
No, orange will kill the cats.
Yeah.
But we can't see
Okay,
anybody.
let's
Who
start
all
over.
is there?
Yeah, I think Jacob's gonna start.
Oh, I like that. When did you get it? Just recently?
So
or-
who all is there?
Just from who I can hear, Jared and Kelly.
Hey,
Brad.
I'm glad you're here.
Maybe
No,
we'll
I
figure
see
it out after.
That's good to
Good to see
hear.
you all, so.
All right.
Jared and Chloe and Andrea and Jacob.
Yeah, Vanessa and Brad are there. Oh,
For
hey,
those on Zoom, we're just about to start.
all right.
Not everyone's here, but we're gonna start. It's being recorded, so we can, for posterity, people can watch it later. Can you hear them?
All right.
Can they hear you? I assume so. I mean, I can hear me over there. Oh,
good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
we hear.
Did
I
you,
talked to Derek.
can we turn this up so we can hear them make comments? Sorry.
Oh, could you guys not hear us? We've been talking.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've just had my phone here recording, but it's just sitting here and we aren't actually all over here yet. So
Okay.
Smells
I know
horrible.
Nathan is on his way over.
yeah, I think we're gonna get started, and when they get here, they get here.
Yeah, it's being recorded.
Yeah, we're recording it, so they can watch it later.
Yeah. Sure, she is watching.
Is that as loud as my phone goes? I guess it is. All right.
All right, I think we're gonna go ahead and get started. That's funny for everyone who are coming. For those who are here, obviously there's the cheese and foods in the back. Everyone else, you can imagine the moldy cheese and you can be jealous. So how's that? Great. So my mission story a little bit starts in summer of 2012 when I was at BYU with some friends like Derek and Eliza, which is kind of fun. And one day on a weekend, I decided I'd sleep in. Even though general conference, I figured nothing important happens on Saturday morning general conferences. So I slept in, and I missed the fact that they changed the mission age from 19 to 18 for young men, and from 21 to 19 for girls. So I missed that, and I thought it was fake news for a minute, but it wasn't. It was real, and it's very exciting. So me and about half of my YSA ward went on our mission that semester, left as soon as we could, and there's no my call. So that was super fun. It was super fun to be at BYU. And that comes up later. Here's my missionary plaque. My mission scripture was modern scripture from President Pat Benson about when obedience ceases to become an irritant, it becomes our quest. In that moment, God will endow us with power. And that was really something I've seen multiple times in my life, pre-mission, on mission, and post-mission. So that's been it's been a lifelong scripture that stuck with me. And here's my go-to missionary picture, because it looks very classic of me in beautiful France. That's in the city called Albi. So I started my mission in February 2013, got back February 2015. Lincoln, what were you doing in February 2013?
What was I doing?
How old were you?
2.
2. Nice. Okay. So you'll remember this greatly, I'm sure. All right, so mission starts the Provo MTC, and I remember Derek touched about this, that he had like it should be a lot of fun because you just don't have to do anything. You just get to sit around and study the gospel in your language all day, and you get 3 buffets a day, which is really fun. But it actually, I didn't have that much fun, unfortunately. I thought it was really challenging for 2 main reasons. One, my companion was from Spain and he didn't speak English, and so that made it kind of hard to communicate. And then if we look at the layout here, here's the MTC, here's the Provo Temple, which we always go up to and see. It's kind of on a hill. Here's a picture of my district at the Provo Temple. But from the little hill of the Provo Temple, I could see where I lived as a freshman at BYU, and all the memories of my friends and Derek and Eliza and all that stuff kept coming back to me, and it was super homesick. But it was still pretty fun. All right. Then I went to my mission here in France. This is Europe. How fun is that? So we have Grandpa's mission up here in Scotland, Derek's mission over here in Rome, but the best mission here in the middle. So my mission was the southern half of France and part of Switzerland. So not Paris. Everyone, I've never been to Paris. Paris is lame anyway, so that's okay. Here's all the different areas of my mission. And our biggest, we have 11 zones and about 250 plus missionaries. And each zone would have a few districts, so each of these were divided up into zones. This is kind of, this map doesn't really make much sense, but those are the different areas in my mission. You have to, I don't expect you to memorize them or anything, but here's a big overview map of the mission. We have Corsica, which is the island above Sardinia, where Derek served. I never went to Corsica. I tried. I tried to barter my way to get to Corsica. It never worked. That's okay though. But I started out, my first area was in a place called Toulouse, which is a really pretty, that was probably the fourth or so biggest city in France, and I thought it was really pretty. Then I went to Marseille, which is tied to the second biggest city in France. And Marseille.
What is it type of?
With Lyon. Marseille and Lyon are more or less the same size, and they always go back and forth. And Marseille is, Derek and I commiserated, Marseille is like Naples, but Naples is actually 3 times bigger, which blows my mind, because Marseille, well, I thought was huge, but France, I guess, is a little bit bigger than, is a little bit smaller than Italy. Then that's where Chateau d'If is. So that's my picture. I was on a boat and took that picture. Then I went to Grenoble, which was in the near the Alps. It was very, very pretty. That's my picture as well. And then Lyon, which again is the tied for second biggest city in France. That's my picture as well from the hill Fourvière.
It kind of looks smoggy. Was it smoggy?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, big cities definitely. Marseille was the worst by far. Lyon was up there. Marseille was just hideous.
Yeah, you'd think
Is
that.
Is that why you
smog
say
would
it's
just blow
like
away.
Naples? Because Naples.
Yeah, I mean, Marseille was dirty. There was crime everywhere. It was all like you could see that's where I first saw my burning car. Was on the car on fire. Everyone's just like on the mopeds driving on the sidewalks all over the place. Marseille was a mess. Yeah, Lyon was messy too, but Marseille was just messy. And actually, so Lyon, again, they're both very big cities. Lyon has probably over a dozen missionaries there. When I was there, Marseille had 4 missionaries because they're so dangerous. Most of them, there was most of the city we couldn't actually go to. They're so dangerous.
4 missionaries in that entire.
So in
big
all of
city.
Marseille, yeah. And in Lyon, there was probably 20 missionaries in Lyon. So big difference in quality of life. Then I went to Brive-la-Gaillarde, which is about the size of the whole city, about the size of like Rexburg. So it's a smaller town. It's the smallest place I served as far as officially. But here you can see the old Centreville, where there's this chapel in the middle, and this is, years ago, the wall would have been around there. And I remember Derek sent me some news about this. He liked to keep up on. Derek would send me fun facts from places I lived. And La Gaillarde means like the brave, because Brie was a site of a big war between the English and the French, and Brie pulled out when it was impossible odds. And so there's the Gaillarde, the brave. That's kind of cool. And then I went to Nice. That was where I ended. That's not my picture. That's just a picture of Nice right there on the beach. Nice was very nice. All right. France is really cool though, because you have a lot of. It didn't play. France was really interesting because there was a huge amount of diversity of the things you could kind of come across. Once this pulls up, they have this huge history as well as modern day life going on there. It's not a poor country by any means. It's an awesome country. There's a lot of cool things going on there. And so there's lots of variety of sites you can see. And also just from not from a historical point of view, but from its landscape, right? France is much smaller than the United States, for example. France is probably closer, to the size of one state of the United States, but France has a lot of a pretty good amount of diversity, from the mountains to the beaches to the rolling hills and forests and stuff. There just was a good mixture of a lot of cool things. Once that pulls up, there's a picture of me standing in the ruins of a chapel that was built in the 1100s. So like a long time ago. And
Maybe you unplug it.
that pulls up. It's thinking. I can tell it's thinking, but eventually that's gonna pull up. That's kind of fun there. While that's
How about, can we tell them,
Loading.
can we show them the drinks and stuff?
sure,
Hey, Jared, will you grab those drink things and bring them over?
there's a few syrup bottles.
These were, well, one was unexpected.
Did anyone like? Well, I guess we'll show them both off the last. So anyone liked one of them. Here's mint, which is the mint flavored, and grenadine, which is a bunch of berry. It's a berry mixture. Did anyone like the mint one? People here.
Pregnant Vanessa did.
Vanessa liked it.
I thought it would taste like mint tea. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, mint tea is true. That's true. It was like reminiscent of toothpaste though, or mouthwash.
It
looks like mouthwash.
It was nice in your mouth, as soon as you swallowed it.
Swallow.
You just, your body was just like, wait, this.
Why
did
did
not
you do that? You're not sore. Don't swallow your toothpaste.
You're not
There it goes.
Oh, he had it for like 2
Got it.
seconds.
It's yeah.
popped up.
Half of it's a mixture of the parents' Wi-Fi. Oh, no shade on the parent.
No, all the shade.
There, some of the cheeses we have here, I'll have a picture of some of the more moldy cheese. To show off, because the cheese definitely was gross at the beginning of the mission. I didn't swallow there's a certain kind of cheese called Roquefort that I didn't swallow the first time I had it. So it was so nasty, and I was like, this is so stupid. So I spit it out. I didn't eat it. But by the end of my mission, my companion and I would buy a whole wedge of that cheese and eat it ourselves for lunch with bread. I learned to love.
Oh, Jared's showing his cheese there.
What would you say is the weirdest cheese that you've had?
I mean, that Roquefort is the strongest. And again, it took me the whole 2 years to learn to love it, but now I'm obsessed with it.
Hey.
Tastes like blue cheese. It's delicious.
Okay, here we go. So here's that chapel from the 1100s. And then as well, again, the cutting edge technology. These are the tram systems in Grenoble that can take you around the city really effectively. You have these really rural fields of whether it's vineyards for their wine, or these are sunflowers. This is my picture I took. Or the sprawling metropolises like Lyon and Marseille. You have mountains and snow, as well as the beaches and all the Mediterranean, where it's super lovely all year round. These are taken about a month apart from each other.
No.
So are they like they're on the beach? It does not snow.
In Marseille, it never was while I was there. Marseille never snowed. Nice never snowed. It got coldish.
Yeah.
It got cold comparatively, but it was lovely.
And when you say it snows, like a lot of snow, or like
In Grenoble, yeah. And in Grenoble, I was in the mountains. This picture, I'll tell the story later, but this picture, our car got stuck in the snow. So we were the member's car got stuck in the snow.
Okay.
It's so funny. And as well as the little tiny towns and the big urban areas of lots of shopping and lots of things going on, lots of apartment buildings, like these tall buildings compared to these 2-story buildings. France had it all, which was super cool. And then the food. So here's the picture of Roquefort, which I learned to love. Escargot, lovely.
do you love our escargot?
Oh, yeah, it's remind you, Catherine, they make it here, it tastes great. That's not my picture, but that frog legs, it's not that, it's fine. It wasn't really that good or bad. It was just a tiny piece of meat. First time I had oyster was, whatever this is, oyster was on my mission. Eclairs, lots of eclairs and lots of little delicacies that way. Baguettes, big baguette. Nutella and crepes. This is from a crepe vendor on the street, stock vendor or something. Fondue, which came from Switzerland. That was cheesy fondue. That was very yummy and very expensive. So when you fly in from the MTC, I flew to Lyon. You meet the mission president and his wife, the Ronis, and then I got my companion, Elder Kuno, who was from Quebec, Canada. So he spoke French. He spoke their version of French. But I was fascinated by this place in this is a building in Leon I went to once. It's an apartment building where the stairs to the apartments are on either side, but in this little courtyard, there's this random gate, and behind the gate is this. There's these random little tunnels. And I was just so fascinated by the Family Opera's hideout back here because like France is just built on this ancient history, and they're trying to build on top of it, and it's just it becomes a maze in the old villages and in the old parts of the town. It's so fascinating to me. So I thought that was really cool. So my first area, like I said, was Toulouse. So I go there with Oluculo. Here's an average shot of my daily agenda. You can see the excellent numbers of what we planned to get, what we actually got. You know, we got a lesson, which actually is pretty good. That's not every day.
Not a lesson, not bad.
This is a picture I took from a bridge or Pont Neuf, in just 9, the bridge is number 9.
No, it's the new bridge.
Toulouse. The number 9 bridge.
It's not Pont Neuf?
Well, there were a few bridges.
Okay.
Let me come back to that, but I was there, that was very lovely, that was a really pretty day. I came across this Leon article, Vanessa's favorite picture. But that was really funny to come across that in France.
What?
Maybe homesick for a day. But
I was at Vanessa's favorite picture. Were you there too?
Vanessa's
Right here.
I'm yet to leave out this. That's so.
Unless
you know them.
but after Toulouse, I was there for 2 transfers. So that's 12 weeks,
I'm so
3
sorry.
months. I went to a place called Mire, which is just outside of Toulouse. So actually, let's see. I went with Elder Denning. He was from Utah. But so here's Mire. The whole goal, it was the same award technically, but the goal is they wanted to get us out of Toulouse and go to the other villages and stuff. And so they forced us, they wanted us to go out to Mire and things like that. So Mire was this tiny little town. Again, Brive was the size of Rexburg or so. Mire is even smaller. Mire was very tiny. Let's see if this wants to once this pulls up the apartment we lived in Toulouse, and we would drive to Mire, and the apartment we lived in Toulouse was really, really tiny. Again, I'm sure other people who do not serve in Europe could complain more about their apartments. I don't want to be too self-pitying here, but it was a tiny apartment. This was the room. This was the kitchen, which is right here, and there was a bathroom, and that was it.
No
And it was
way.
really hot all the time. There wasn't AC, so we just had these fans.
Their apartment, Leah.
And this was like the worst apartment. That's okay.
Did any of your apartments have AC?
Oh, yeah, no, good point. This one was always stuffy and always hot.
I've just heard that most places in most of Europe, in fact, doesn't have AC.
What? That's a
Most,
good point. We're
apartments
definitely,
and-
I think I had one place with AC. That was nice. We can talk about that apartment later. But Mire, so I was out here in the small villages, so it was
So
very rural,
Jacob,
very pretty. So always
did
good
you
kids.
guys,
Wait, Esther's asking something.
did your apartments have maids like the South America?
No. They weren't cheap enough labor.
Yeah, labor's not as cheap and.
Even in Brazil, we didn't have maids.
Oh, you
Oh,
don't?
I've done that. Yeah.
Every once in a while, we'd have a Chia who we could pay to wash our clothes.
Nice. But our area went from Toulouse all the way down to the Spanish border. So again, the goal was to get us outside of the city. And so we drove to all these places and would go knock doors. And it wasn't successful, but it was really fun to go see like so that's where I learned to drive stick. I learned the hard way, meaning that the car got so broken they had to get rid of the car, then they had to sell the car or sell it.
Wait, because of you?
Yeah, because I wrecked it pretty good. Not in a bad wreck, but I'm very
You wore it out?
I wore it out and I scraped up the side of it really good. So I'm glad I learned to stick in someone else's car. That kind of worked out, I guess. But it was super fun. But while we were there, so the trick was since we lived in one city and the whole goal was to travel to other cities, meal times were complicated because it didn't make sense. If we wanted to go home for lunch and go home for dinner, we would have wasted so much time on the road. So we would bring a sack lunch and we would just skip dinner and go back a little bit, like go back at 8 o'clock at night and eat dinner then. And so we would be out all day, and we would bring some water with us in the car. But then once your water went out, hopefully you just ran into a nice person who would give you water. It's like it was always hot and always kind of miserable. But during that time, one day on a fast Sunday, I was fasting. We were knocking doors, and fasting became such an issue. The mission president told us you can't fast from water; you can only fast from food. Because too many missionaries were getting sick and hurting themselves.
We have that.
But that had not happened yet, so I was still fasting from water this time, and I was so miserable. I thought, and I hated life a little bit. But I was like, you know what, I can use this. And so I came up with the idea for the year of thanks, where I was like, you know what, there are foods I miss, there are people I miss, there are things I took for granted, like the parents cooking. And so I was like, so I made a list of one thing a day for a year of things I just loved, or people I loved, or things I missed. It could be anything, songs or food or whatever, and that was kind of a fun, bad place, and a good thing came out of it, which was cool. Then I got another companion. His name is Elder. You know, I remember I won't say his name, so I didn't like this elder. I don't like, no shade on him. Well, some shade on him, but like he didn't like to work, and I like to work, so we didn't get along. But I figured we could either butt heads all day, or we could try to be friends. And maybe if we ever did talk to an investigator, or if we ever did do work, maybe the spirit would be with us. And so that was my attempt, and it ended up being pretty fun. I ended up mostly liking this guy, but at the beginning I did not like him. This elder was in the zone, Elder Erickson. He and I became really good friends. We came in the mission almost the same time. So we made a promise to each other that we were going to be companions. Now you can't choose who your companion is, but foreshadowing, we get to be companions later, which is super cool.
Where is he from?
He was from Utah.
How old is he?
About
He looked like he's like shorter than me.
yeah, he was he was awesome. He was the shortest, and I was the tallest.
Yeah, go back to that picture real quick.
He's being tall as he looks like
Get a
it.
problem.
Up to the shoulder.
He was a
Exercise.
I love this guy. I'm still friends with this person. While we were in Toulouse, one of the cities we went to was Foix. There was a big castle there, so we went there. It was on the castle on a P-Day. That's me on top of one of the towers looking out. So that was fun. Okay, then I got transferred. I went to Marseille in September 2013. I was companion to Elder Rivera from Vanuatu, which I've never heard of, but it's a country in the Pacific. Nice, good job. And here's one of the senior couple missionaries who we love dearly. So the parents are doing the good work, being the senior couple missionary for someone else a little bit. Our apartment was the 3rd floor on top of these stairs. In these old apartment buildings, there's not room for, there aren't elevators, there aren't room for elevators. So if you're gonna move furniture, you rent one of these things and you move the furniture up and down on the side. I assume Derek might have seen one of those on his mission. But you're not supposed to ride those. I never did, but the elder did once. It's pretty fun, but I never did.
Did you just like cook? Did it have little things like that stick underneath the furniture and
It was just a big platform that would go up and down. So you put your furniture on it, and you could like tie it down real quick, blow it up, untie it, pull your window, and next furniture down. So I help people move with that sometimes. Members move with that. One time in Marseille, we were very poor, and so to try to spice up my plate of spaghetti, I put jelly on it. It wasn't very good. So
I mean, good, like toast.
How could that not be good?
it was just it was better than just plain old, I guess, but it was not necessarily that good. Like I said, Marseille is the city that's very big, but there are very few missionaries there because it's so dangerous. Dangerous in the fact that it was just a sketchy place to be, but it was a really cool place to be. This is the famous cathedral there called Notre Dame de la Garde. You can notice the gold statue of Mother Mary up there. Now the cathedral building itself, I'm not sure when that was built, but the foundation was built on for a previous cathedral, years ago, was built in 800 AD. And so 1,000 years before America was the thing, Marseille was being a city, which is so cool to me. That's a picture I took from that cathedral looking out. The train station's in there somewhere, but that's that's the train station. So that's Marseille. It was very big, and I thought it was super huge. Apparently not big as Naples, but I thought it was pretty big. Marseille is popular from the Count of Monte Cristo story. That's a street like they own. In fact, people know the Count of Monte Cristo. Look at it. Here's a big part of the city. Actually, there's that cathedral I was at. Here's Chateau d'If, and here's an island behind it. So there's a picture I took of Chateau d'If from a boat. And then here's me on this island Friol, chilling on a P-Day once with my companions. That was fun.
You just take a ferry out there?
Yep, a little, even smaller than a ferry, with a boat. So here's from the mainland. Here's from a member of the department. I'm taking this picture. There's Chateau d'If. It's tiny. There's island Friol. Then I got a new companion. I got Elder Wilgos from England. He was a brand new guy. So I trained him. He was my trainee. Since he was from England, all of our pictures had to be James Bond themed. That's one thing I do in England. So like all of our pictures. Yeah. This is the first day together. That's the last day together. So I trained him for 2 transfers. While I was in here, my trainer passed down to me this tie, which I passed down to Elder Wilgos. This tie was started by elders. There's not dates this far back, but I would guess from the other dates, this was like the 90s, this probably is older than me, which is kind of cool.
Very tie. That's
So I added my name to it, passed it on to Elder Wilgos. Our first Christmas was during this time. And this is us singing for some members. On the day of Thanksgiving, which obviously Europe doesn't recognize, but on the day of Thanksgiving, I had a man wearing toast, and we splurged and bought some treats for a man wearing toast. And on Christmas Eve, I made us make a fort, and he stepped on the floor right here in our fort. On Christmas Day, we also got a Skype home. And in France, all the floors are like wood or fake wood or tile. And a big size rug this size, a rug this size I'd never seen before or after this day. Well, actually, Michigan had it. The time Michigan president, who was American, you never saw these things. But this was in the senior couples department. They had a area rug I could lay on all the way, and it was amazing, and I couldn't believe it. And so this other elder who were old, who were training, so both of our guys were new. They didn't miss this. They didn't know. And they were both from Europe. One was from Spain, one was from England. But we missed this. We laid down on it and we loved it. That was almost as good as Skype went home to our family.
Can I
Did they have a vacuum? Yeah.
So this is like for Julia and Lincoln and Hannah, all you guys. So nowadays missionaries can talk to their family every week. And back when they were on their missions, you can tell them how to talk.
Twice a year. And then, and for Jared and Nathan, you can only call. You didn't have Skype.
And the phone calls were just like,
$100.
yeah, I remember calling my brother in Ukraine and it was hundreds of dollars. Yeah.
I have more questions about your in Ukraine. That's cool.
Yeah.
And then here's us in also January hiking the Calanques. So it's very, again, Christmas in Marseille, very lovely weather. Here I am in short sleeves, having a good time, going for a hike. After Marseille, I went to Grenoble, which is in the mountains, and I served with the Elder Willits from Hillcrest High School in Utah. He was awesome. He was newer.
You
But I
look
was
like you
trying to get.
have huge bangs in that picture. Like shaggy bangs. You're like big ugly shaggy bangs.
But Grenoble was
Like
beautiful on the
Grenoble.
mountains. I had to stop myself from putting more pictures in here, but there were mountains all over the place, and it was always pretty. No matter what time of day it was and what was going on and what the weather was. This is where it snowed again. This is taken like a month after that Marseille picture on the beach, or on the hike. But we were driving with a member to another member's house, like a less active look at them. The car got stuck. We were pretty close. We just walked the rest of the way, walked back, picked up the car, and went home. That was kind of fun. That was the only time on my mission I saw snow was in Grenoble. There's a random chateau. Again, there's so much history. There's all cool buildings all over the place. You just drive and you'll find one. So this is one we saw on a P-Day, which is lovely. And then also there's a university there. They had a teacher who was teaching like world religions or something, and so they had us come and teach about LDS theology and history, and that was really fun to teach a class for a day about that. That's fun too. Then after Grenoble, I went to Lyon, and I served in the mission office with Elder Coons, who is the cutest teddy bear there ever was. I love Elder Coons so much. So in our mission, it might be differently organized, but we had, assistants to the president who kind of oversaw zone leaders and stuff. Independent of that, there were office elders, and we were in charge of all the physical needs for the missionaries. So that, and the president, mission president, that included getting all the missionaries, cross-letter materials, like their cell phones, make sure cell phones were working, their legal status, taking care of the cars, buying train tickets, emergency transfers. Is that like all the zone conferences? We went to the apartments and hooked up their water and electricity. Setting up apartments, like buying furniture from IKEA and literally taking there and setting up beds and picking that things. The mission office was, my mission kind of came to a halt when the mission office began. It was weird, it was crazy, and it was stressful 24/7. I was there for 4 months, or for 4 transfers, which were 6 months, and just like every day you were stressed. You woke up stressed, went to bed stressed. You dealt with people who were stressed. Missionaries called you because they had a problem. Their cell phone was working. Their carbon monoxide detector went off. They would call us at 4 a.m, and we'd have to call the carbon monoxide people and have them come check it out. Like that's what we dealt with for 6 months, and it was crazy, and it was life changing. So I'm glad it happened, but it was nuts, and I also hated it, kind of like the mission. It's just like a mini version of that. So. Our apartment, this was a nice big apartment because we were off the Mission Hotel. So we had rooms of these triple bunk beds that we were in charge of cleaning and stuff. So the new missionaries coming in would spend the night here before they went out to their places. When old missionaries were about to go home for their missions, they'd come here for the night before they flew out the next day. If there was an emergency transfer that dealt with something, like if people needed the summer to stay, they came to Leon and stayed in our apartment. We took care of it. So we had to take care of, they were about, we could house in beds over 27 people, and then we had sleeping bags to get to like 35.
Hello.
What city is this in?
This was in Leo. This is where our mission office was. This is the headquarters.
How often were they occupied? Were they commonly 2 or 3 people?
At least
Common have 20?
Yeah, it was for zone conferences, people were coming to Leon, they'd spend the night here. For transfer times when new missionaries were coming to the mission, coming to France for the first time, and the old missionaries were leaving for the last night. So like not every night for sure, but a few times, maybe 3 or 4 times a transfer. But those 3 or 4 times was 20 freaking missionaries in there. Yeah, super fun, super crazy. We dealt with legal status. We had to deal with help people review their legal status. Here's my kids to say sure. I know Derek had one of these. Here, Julie can take this and pass it around if you'd like. Tourist card. This is our little visa extension.
That you can stay in France.
Through the same France. We dealt with paperwork to make sure missionaries could do that successfully, and the mission president did that successfully. We bought train tickets. I bought train tickets for district meetings, for zone conferences, for transfers, for exchanges. Zone leaders could also buy tickets and they could get reimbursed at the mission office, but also the mission office could just buy all the tickets. So they could submit requests to us or Google Forms or something, and we bought tickets. And I like. Again, when my companion and I were in charge of renting apartments and doing all this stuff, we spent tens of thousands of euros every month. And we were like 2 19-year-olds. And for some reason, like, everyone was okay with that. It was crazy, but I learned
Jacob,
a lot.
In what medium did you transfer the purchased ticket to the intended passenger?
Great question. Usually it was a matter of, we bought a ticket that had a code to it. They would take that code to their local train station and print off a ticket.
Okay.
Or eventually we swapped to using the little cards where they could scan this and your ticket would be on this card. So that was kind of what happened.
They still had to pre-buy the ticket. But
Still the ticket, but the ticket was on there, which was kind of nice. So, and then again, we were in charge of 250 missionaries from Spain to Switzerland, making all this happen. And it was nuts. It was totally nuts. And here's a picture of one of our transfer pictures, our transfer calendars. So this is great. So transfer day, right? So every transfer, missionaries are they could be going from Switzerland to Bordeaux, they could be going from Toulouse to Geneva. We were in charge of making all those tickets happen. The day after transfer day was the day the new missionaries were going to come in. So whoever's going to be training would come to Lyon for the night with us. New missionaries would fly into Lyon. We'd house them. We'd show them around. We'd take them to the mission office. We would take them to the mission home, we'd eat dinner with the Ronies and things like that. We would help with training. we send them away, and then, if there were other conferences, we'd deal with that. And it's like this week, well, actually, so the week leading up to transfers and the week of transfers, the assistants and us would usually get like 2 or 3 or 4 hours of sleep. We did not sleep, and we just didn't die because of the spirit. I don't know. And these were zone conferences, so every other transfer, he would go, mission president, and we'd go with him to every single zone. And every other transfer, we'd meet up and do 3 big zone conferences. So it was a little less travel. So it was super fun, but it was super crazy. This is me trying to make plans of how long it takes to drive to this place, because we had to drive. We would load up our 12-passenger stick shift van of all the supplies these missionaries needed, like Books of Mormon, pamphlets, pass-along cards, and we would drive to Bordeaux and would give the missionaries their boxes of stuff. So we were always working and always going somewhere, and it was crazy and it was so fun. And here's another picture of me trying to make sense of zone conference tour and where we wanted to go. This is just some pictures. And on top of that, the funnest part, I got to make videos on my mission. I pitched the idea to my mission president. He let me do it. That we made a bunch of videos, mostly training videos. We've also made this video that we can show real quick.
No. No.
Oops. Oh. Yeah, what's that? Well, is it a rock thing? Number one.
Did you film all of this?
Yes.
Nice job. Spanish. Years, they're independent. Well, independent from themselves, independent from the king, I guess. They're
On field day?
Yeah.
Revolution.
What was the premise of this movie? Was this for Christmas time or was it just
This I pitched,
celebrating a missionary?
I wanted to make like a video to get missionaries, either current or like new missionaries excited to come to France. So we made this, we posted it on their social media, the mission social media, whatever, and new missionaries can come see it and stuff. So they showed off for new employees, new missionaries. New hires and stuff. No, yeah, new hires. So okay, so I made the videos. So eventually Elder Coons goes home. I get Elder Erickson, the little short kid from before, which was awesome. And then we also have the Kennards. Some of you may have heard of them. They were a senior club missionary. They came served in the mission office. He came home and built a bulodrome in his backyard. So the parents came, visited them in Utah, played the bulodrome. Now the parents have a bulodrome in their backyard.
What's that?
They play the tonk.
Oh.
Bulodrome. Because it's also called Bulls. And so that's from thanks to the Kennards. But they were funny.
How's that used to call?
Sister Kennard never learned French, never spoke French. So she did a really good job of trying to make that work by being a missionary in France. And she was awesome for working in the mission office and taking calls. She had a lot of guts to make that happen. So they were awesome couple.
Reminds me of Thunderdome. That's the
Here's a picture of Billy Planner from mission office. You can see we had plans that didn't. We had to the airport apparently. Went to IKEA. We got lunch. That's fun. Office work. Went for the airport again. Then we were gonna go knocking doors, but apparently I had to go get a phone to the zone leaders and then went to the ATM. I don't know what that's going about, but like we just were running errands. We didn't end up doing anything as far as not surprisingly, but it was.
Where you pointed to set and said you were knocking doors, I thought it says partying.
I'll say that's the 14, which is a party. But yeah, 14. So in our mission, I'm sure most missionaries, we did a lot of combining of languages, like French and English. So in French, you would say to go tracking, like to go door to door, you'd say for it. And so we put the American ing on that and just say 14. We went 14. Things like that. So there's a lot of mission lingo. I think I've mostly avoided so far, which is hard for me to do, but I tried to not confuse anyone. Elder Anderson and Elder Patrick Kieran came to our mission. Elder Anderson, I met in high school. I don't know if actually you guys know that.
He came to a parent's house.
Yeah, he came to a state conference when Dad was state president.
Yeah.
So I met him, and so
Hilo Anderson?
yeah. And so he when he came to the missions, we went to this big conference. Before the conference started, there were VIPs who got to go talk to them because they knew, they knew us, they knew our families or whatever. So I was not the only one, but I was one of the people who got a picture. My companion got a picture too. Because he was there. That was fun. My last transfer to the mission office, this guy was playing basketball and hurt his leg real bad. So he came to the mission office in an attempt to try to rest and get better and go back out on the mission field. Unfortunately, it didn't work. It was this roller coaster. So he was with us for 5 weeks of the 6-week transfer. And it kept going back and forth on how his leg was progressing, whether he was going to stay or go. And it was this roller coaster of emotions for us to be with him while one day he thinks he's going home. Next day he's like, oh, maybe we can stay. My friend's gonna get better. And it kept going back and forth. And so it was really dramatic, and it was really kind of crazy. But it was really fun to have him there. Again, he mostly just kind of hung around. You can see these crutches. They didn't have the armpit crutches in France. They had these little wrist crutches you used. So I was trying to sympathize with him, and I used them for a day to be fun.
There's some Olympic sport that uses those.
No. The mission office, again, with all the craziness, you're doing weird things. One really fun thing is you got to deal with people, some of the unique people more often. For example, we got to go to the mission president's home way more regularly than any other missionary. We got to eat dinner with them sometimes, or have FHE with them. We got to go on the conference tour. We had to travel around. We couldn't obviously cook. We were freaking in Bordeaux and we lived in Lyon. We go out to eat. Sometimes we go out to eat with the mission nurse or the Ronies or whatever, or the APs.
What are
And
Ronies?
our mission president and his wife.
That was their last name, or is that okay?
Sorry. So we go out with the President Roney and his wife, or go out with the mission nurse, or her name was Sister Povar. She was awesome. And so it was really that was one benefit of going to the mission office, is that we got to go eat lots of places, and we ate really, really expensive food that we didn't have to pay for, which is really nice because the mission president paid for it and Sister Povar paid for it. So one night we were in Switzerland, we went to a fondue restaurant where we ate that cheese fondue, and it was like $300, and we didn't have to pay for any of it. It was so fun. It's so big, it's so ridiculous at the same time. The last few things I got to see that were just kind of cool. Being able to tour the mission so frequently. We saw this is in Avignon. We saw these in the video for a second. These are the city walls, where that picture of Brive I showed you, where the city walls were now gone. These city walls are still here for the sake of fun, for the sake of history. Makes everything, it's cool to look at. But inside, it's very crowded and very sneaky. It stunk so bad all the time, and I couldn't stand it. I didn't serve there. That's right. I just didn't. Also Carcassonne, that was in the background of one of the video shots. I never went inside, but I could see that, and that was kind of cool.
Wow.
A huge castle complex, and you can go inside. It's all touristy. Part of it, you can go inside.
Is Versailles in Paris?
Yeah. Yeah. This is ancient ruins in Lyon. We mentioned you saw the Colosseum. There's ancient Roman ruins in Lyon. This is not Roman. This is just ancient French of some sort. But this used to be a chapel or a cathedral, and this round thing. Any guesses what that is? What? Baptismal font. Yep. Back before why would they need that? They just do splashes. French history, they have baptismal fonts. They don't even know that. They don't even care. We walked up. We were knocking doors. We ran across Braille's home. Louis Braille's home. Braille didn't even know he was there. For general conference, you go to the Stake Center where they broadcast it in French. They usually have a room for English speakers. Usually, I was missionaries, but also sometimes Americans living there. And so this is pretty classic to do on a general conference weekend. We get to go watch general conference, all the missionaries, and hang out, kind of a party. Had a lot of fun. And then this is my companion and I so the last part I want to make of the mission office, and we'll go on the rest of the mission. The mission office again was really weird. You do a lot of weird things. Being this is us in downtown Lyon at 2 a.m. That's kind of a weird thing to do, even if not a missionary. Especially as a missionary, we we were staying, we got very few hours of sleep during transfer week. One time I had to teach a sister how to drive stick, so it was me and her in the car and my companion, her companion in the car for a couple hours. We just drove around trying to teach stick. That's kind of weird to do as a missionary. You deal with emergency transfers. One time a missionary was going home from their mission. It was a sister, and because of, I can't remember what the good reason was, but it ended up being I just drove her with the mission nurse, and so my companion wasn't even there, just me and her and the mission nurse. Like it was just did weird things, and it was hard to feel like a missionary. And you worked in the office from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. ish every day, well, every weekday. And so you just didn't feel, and that's when you're doing all the administrative work. You just didn't feel like a missionary, and it was exhausting because of that. So 3 big things happened there. Again, one, you just didn't feel like a missionary, and I missed that so much. And so I can't remember if my president and I talked about it, but happily, and what I hoped would happen is that when I left the mission office here in a minute, I went and trained, which is nice. I got to go get back in the nitty gritty and try to teach how to be a missionary so I could relearn myself. But 2 other big challenges that happened was one, mission politics came to a head in the mission office. I feel like mission politicking was a big problem in my mission, and I was caught up in it. Where like, oh, if I get enough numbers, impress the mission president, I can be his own leader. And if I'm district leader by this transfer, I'm going to be AP, by transfer 20 or like whatever transfer. Like it was all this game, which was so stupid. But I was all caught up into it before the mission office, and in the mission office, it just culminated where you're in the thick of that, and you dealt with all these things. You heard about
Everyone campaigning for it.
Yeah, you heard the mission president talk about missionaries and who we thought he liked and who he didn't like. You heard all these things and you dealt with emergency transfers, and missionaries knew you were in on the gossip. They wanted to hear about it. You'd be like, no, I can't. Like, it was just this massive politics. And it was, again, I at first I loved it. I felt so cool. I felt so special being in the mission office. And it was really cool. But like, fortunately, halfway through or so, I realized this is ridiculous. And we're all just like 19-year-old kids. Like, this is not the end of the world. It's not. And so like, it was nice that I eventually got there, but the rest of my mission, it drove me nuts to see that in the mission politics go there. So that was in the head. The last challenge that came ahead in the mission office was flirting with sisters. Was really easy, was really tempting to do when you're all at the same age, you're all out there, and then as a mission office, you're in weird situations with other missionaries, assistant missionaries, like hanging out with them or like teaching someone to drive a stick. And so I told myself it wasn't a problem. And I flirted with missionaries, and it was very stupid of me. And eventually, I came clean to my companion, my mission president. I said, I need to stop this." And so, it was really nice to leave the mission office. And my hope and my goal and what happened was that I went to the middle of nowhere, Brive La Gaillarde, this Rexburg-sized city, middle of nowhere, comparatively, and like away from Lyon and away from all the drama and away from all that. And I could train a new missionary, so I could kind of restart. So the last few weeks of the mission office, I preached my gospel. And it was just lovely to get out there and be in the mission field again. That was so lovely. It was really necessary for me and my, sanity, I guess, to get out of there. Here's my new companion, Elder Nadel from Utah. This is us knocking the door of a castle to see if they wanted to hear the missionary speak. They didn't, but we talked to them. That's kind of cool.
Someone lived there.
Brive, kind of like Bure, we were in a bunch of small towns, and Brive was the biggest town. Brive wasn't even that big. So we went to all the small towns. This is a lovely little sidewalk in the town. We saw a lot of rural France, and it was really pretty. Here's Brive behind us. We had small town, not a lot of big buildings. No big buildings. Exercising. Was able to get into some new habits now that I actually went to bed at the right time, and I actually woke up at the right time. I actually followed mission rules again for the first time in 6 months, and it was lovely. I exercise every day, which is awesome. We contacted the guy. He said we wanted to introduce for the newspaper, so we got in the newspaper for Brive. Now it's kind of fun. That's what I wanted to do. So there's me and my companion. Bordeaux was our zone kind of headquarters. We'd go there for zone conferences and stuff. This is not my picture, but this is the Mirardot in Bordeaux, Mirror of Water. This is the cathedral you saw in that video as well. Notice again the golden statue of Mother Mary. That's why the Paris Temple doesn't have the angel Moroni on it. We look too Catholic. All the Catholic cathedrals have the golden statue of Mother Mary on it. Also, our district included Bergerac. You've heard of Cyrano de Bergerac, the ugly guy who whispers to his friend to do poetry to impress a lady. Bergerac's a city in France, and they all lean into the touristy part of that. Also, Bergerac is along the Dordogne, so if you read the timeline book, we're up the river from where the timeline book takes place, yeah. That's nearby. After Elder Nadal, I trained again. So this is my third kid. I trained Elder Pincock, also from Utah. And for Derek, this is Sister DeFeo. I was her district leader in Grenoble, but she's from Italy. So that's fun, Italy.
So you put the backside there.
Probably.
There's my MTC companion who now we like, because we actually talk to each other in French. That was fun. Let's see. I was district leader in when I was in Breve, which was great. And this was after his district meeting. It was either Thanksgiving or like the day before, day after Thanksgiving. So we had a little extra fun after the meeting. We had lunch. I consider this a man wearing toast. Someone for Christmas in 2013 sent me Kool-Aid. I don't know if that's a parents or Becca, but we made Kool-Aid for fun. That was very exciting. We tried to make homemade eggnog, and eventually it worked. We didn't know what French was for nutmeg, but we figured it out. We made eggnog, which was fun. Here's one of those bottles, like a little.
Did it taste good?
I tasted it. I liked it. Also, I couldn't compare it to anything, so there wasn't eggnog in France, so I didn't. I think it was good. I don't drink eggnog. No, it's too unhealthy. They don't eat sugar on top of sugar in France. Even with the eclairs, like all their treats are flavor forward, not sugar forward, and they're really good. One of the member families wanted to make us Thanksgiving meal. It was very nice of them, so we had a Thanksgiving meal, and it was pretty darn good. This lady, her name is Elodie. Oh, lady, she's about my age probably, but that's an Elodie. She saw our newspaper article, so she reached out to LDS.org, and we got referred to her. We went and taught her, and she was awesome. And a year after I got home on mission, she got baptized, which was super cool. And we're still kind of we're friends on Facebook. I last reached out to her when last year in 2022. She is not going to church right now, but we're still kind of friends. That's really fun.
Was your companion the same too?
Elder Pincock still. This is that was she found us when I was with Elder Nadal, and then we taught her some more Elder Pincock.
Okay, so she didn't meet two celebrities in the newspaper, just one.
Well, she met Elder Nadal for a hot minute. She did know.
Oh, okay.
We did meet for a minute with him. But she was super cool to work with. When I was in Breve, spoiler, I leave Breve, and I was in November 2014. Lincoln, how old were you in November 2014?
3.
Nice. Well, at that time I was living Breve, and it was nice because I technically lived in Toulouse and Murray for longer. I knew that word better, but this word I've been there for longer, but this word I knew better because I actually spoke French at this time, and so it was fun to actually. I love this guy. He came even after Sunday. I talked to him. He came Monday morning to see me off from the train station because he was so sad to see me go. So I love the Breve people, and I got to leave. I believe them, and that was okay. I ended my mission in Nice. What was nice was that because of Christmas, which hadn't quite yet happened in 2014, because of Christmas 2014, to not make missionaries travel on like Christmas Day, this last transfer for me in Breve was 4 weeks, and so my last transfer in Nice was 8 weeks. So it's kind of nice because if I had to leave somewhere, at least I got to go on this monster transfer and actually get to know the people maybe a little bit better instead of just in 6 weeks. So I went with Elder Smart from Utah, from Salt Lake, and he was awesome. He's been a zone leader, over his own leaders. He was a zone leader for a long time, so I got to go and catch up with him and learn from him. This is not my first Christmas in France, but I think this Christmas was very special. This is my last transfer. We had Christmas this time. France, even in Marseille, surprisingly, went all out for Christmas. There's really pretty Christmas decorations all over the place. It was always really exciting to be there. For our Christmas gift, we got to watch a Disney movie, so we watched La Reine des Neiges. Some of you might know by Frozen. I watched that in December 2014. That was kind of funny. Let's see, Elder Smart and I. So when we had Christmas time, so that means we had a Christmas fort. So I built a Christmas fort for Christmas Eve on the bottom bunk there. We had a big Christmas conference with half of the mission, which was pretty tricky to do, but we pulled that off. Well, I didn't have to do anything, but I had to be there. And we had David Archuleta come and sing to us, which was kind of fun. So he was mission president, threw him out. to hang out with us there. If you knew the
What was he
stuff.
doing at the time? He wasn't a missionary.
No, he'd come home, he'd come home during the morning, and he'd go over and hang out with us. He hadn't been home for long though, yeah, he was still professional, if you might remember. If you knew the Stutz family from the Crestwood Ward, this is Austin Stutz, so he grew up in the Crestwood
That
Ward.
is familiar.
He was on my mission, he was in my zone actually in East, which was fun, so I was in zone leader. You see here's a chapel, this is the Leon Chapel, so a pretty major chapel, but there's no pews, because that's too fancy for French chapels. We were lucky to have a chapel to put in this rented building, so. For Derek, here's a shout out, that's Italy. That also might be Italy, but that's definitely Italy. So there you go, Derek. I saw Italy, the promised land for you.
Two.
Was it other than Monaco?
Oh, let's get there.
Oh.
Here, this is a member who had like a community garden, so we went and helped in the service forum. That's me talking to goats. I was singing to them. This is a guy,
Making your goat noise to him?
the French version. This is the guy we taught who was awesome. He was atheist, but like after a few lessons, he was praying with us, which was super cool. He would say the prayer for us, lesson. He owned an e-cigarette shop though. We hadn't yet gone to Word of Wisdom before I left, so I don't know what happened, but he was really cool. Then we went to Monaco. So Monaco is in my mission.
All right.
We went there on a P day. You can't proselyte there, but you can go there on a P day. If you've seen Iron Man 2, that takes place in Monaco. There's a picture of me up here
And
with something smart.
Herbie 3.
Oh, and Herbie 3. Great.
Herbie goes to Monte Carlo.
Monaco was super fun because it's super ritzy and expensive, and like here's an outdoor escalator because why not? Which I thought was doing mine. That was so fancy. Here's some family shout outs from across the mission. Here was Shay Fanny for Vanessa. Here's DSM for Derek. I saw him on the van, took a picture. Here's Jules. You guys remember? I sent him a picture of this. I mean, years ago. When I guess you were rough, so you was
6
4 or 5. So don't remember, I guess. But and then Kipsta, your dad's up there. Okay, so this is my mission in review. It just shows the different places I served that I kept track of. This lists my companions, the dates I served there. It also shows my journals and my study journals. These are all out front here. These are my journals and study journals. You can see I was going through about less than 5 transfers. I'd go through a study journal. The mission office slowed that all the way down. I didn't have time to do personal study in the mission office. So it took a long time to fill that study journal up. But that was super fun. Then in my mission, you go home, you go back to Leon, you have dinner. These are the current office elders that would have been me 6 months prior. You go to have dinner with the other outgoing missionaries and have a little fireside with the mission president. Then you fly home. I flew to London, and then I flew to Denver, then I flew to Idaho Falls. On the plane, I calculated what that travel looked like, and I calculated that I was from when I left my apartment in France and when I got to Crestwood Lane, it was about 24 hours. So that was kind of fun. But I slept on the plane, so it was pretty easy. I didn't really care. It was pretty chill. Then I got home and I saw mom and dad. That was super fun. And then for some reason, I forgot that Nathan and Esther were there. That was weird.
Yeah, we moved during this.
But then also what blew my mind was like Derek and Eliza was there and Stephanie was there. And I was so nice they came to see me, but they didn't come to see me. They came to see Grandma Eva's funeral. she died long before,
right?
She died the last week of my mission, so I never heard about it. My P day was already spent. I didn't get the email about it. So I came home and she passed. So
And so,
there's
so you made it back for the funeral.
I made it back for the funeral. So
I remember you looking around the airport, Jake, and you're like, now grandma's dead, right? And it seemed like you weren't, a lot broke up about it. Yeah, that's true.
I can talk about that actually. I on my mission, I was under the impression that she might not survive when I came home, or she might pass away in my mission.
Before you left, you gave grandma a hug, and you were telling me that.
Oh, really?
We left your house, and I'm like, she's gonna die before I see her again.
I don't mind that, but she obviously was going. But here we have little James. Well, that's my little boy Marissa and Annalise there. There's Leah and
There's
Hannah
Leah.
there, so
There's Hannah.
that was kind of fun to see all you guys, even though it was
Thanks for coming to the funeral, Hannah.
Bam, there's my mission.
Woo!
You can probably stop recording it. If Derek or someone has questions.
Okay, Google, stop.
Becca will stop recording the Zoom. For anyone who's here, there are still some snacks. Feel free to snack.
I made it through most of them.
Nice. Thank you guys for coming to listen to the chat though.
Did you have to pack around like 4 seasons of clothes with you?